Hi friends, in today's video I will be showing you how you can make this cool little vintage bike using aluminum wire. Before I continue, I would like to invite everybody to subscribe to our channel, like and share this video, and click on the bell to get more notifications when I get more tutorials out. So let's get to the tools and materials and all that. Okay, let's start with the materials and tools. What I have here is this is a 15 gauge aluminum wire, and I have about 65 inches of this wire. So unless you have 65 inches of aluminum wire to start your project, then go ahead and do it. But if you don't have enough, if you don't have 65 inches at least of this kind of wire, you might not have enough wire to finish the bike, because we're going to use a continuous piece of wire. We're not going to make any cuts to it. It's just a continuous piece. So that's why it's very important to have 65 inches at least, if that makes sense. Now as for the tools, of course we're going to use needle nose pliers, wire cutters, and tape measure or a ruler, whatever you have. A tape measure would be better. Now, in order for us to be able to make the tires of our bicycle really round and nice, we're gonna need something to use as a mold. And in this case, I have this cap that belonged to one of my Spice bottles that I don't use anymore. And I got this from my kitchen. So anything that is round and it's got a hard surface that can help you mold the bicycle tires. This is just a regular can. The important part about it is, like, it should not be over 2 inches in diameter. Something bigger is going to make our bicycle look off, like the tires will be a little too big. So anything in between an inch and a quarter, an inch and 3/4 and 2 inches. This is what I use all the time. This is just a regular PVC thing that I found a long time ago. So I'm gonna be using this because this is what I use most of the time. But you get the idea. We also may need some beads to make the flowers, and some different color aluminum wire for the basket. This is not necessary, but I'm just going to mention it. It's an optional if you want to make it the same color or different. And I'm going to be leaving links under the video description for all these materials and tools. So let's get started. To begin with, we're going to measure about 2 inches from the tip of your wire to we're going to make the first bend to our wire, and I'm going to put my pliers right there and bend it in a 90-degree angle, just like that. Everything I'm gonna do here is going to be with measurements, so you guys have a better idea. When I do this, I normally don't use my tape anymore because I just have like a memory of where it goes. But now we're gonna measure about an inch from where this 90-degree angle is to where I'm going to make another bend to my wire. And it doesn't matter what direction that goes. So it could go this way or that way. It doesn't matter right now. So this is what it's supposed to look like. Now I'm going to take my mold. We're gonna use this mold here, and I'm going to wrap my wire around it. And it's always important to try to keep it straight and that doesn't have too many kinks or bends. And I'm gonna place it just like that, making sure that it doesn't have any kinks. And I'm going to wrap it around it 2 times. That's 1. That's 2 right there. And this is what it's supposed to look like. Now I'm going to push it out here's what we got so far. You see how nice and round it is. If you see that it's kinky too much, you can straighten it up with your fingers, but I think that right now it looks fine. So now we're gonna place our pliers here, and we're gonna straighten our wire, making sure that it looks nice and straight, because if we don't do this, then our bike is gonna look all messed up. Now that we are happy with that, we're going to place our pliers right next to this neck here, and I'm going to pull the wire down like that. And here you could do it by just eyeballing it. Just place your pliers here, or you could measure it. And since we got this is about 2 inches, we want maybe about 1 inch right there. And this is going to be part of the bicycle that holds the tire in place, just like that. We want to squeeze this really close together like that, and we bring it back up. Take our pliers, place them right here, and we're gonna bend it to pass it to the other side like that. And we're gonna do exactly the same thing on this side. I'm gonna bring the wire down, and I can see just by looking at it that the next bend will be here. I don't need to measure it anymore since I made one on the other side. Just making sure that they look about the same size, just like that. And I'm going to bring the wire back up to this part here, and without letting this part go, I'm going to wrap it around it a couple times to secure it. This is gonna take you some practice, guys, so if this doesn't come out nicely the first time, don't give up on it, just keep trying. I know it's a little difficult because this is one piece of wire. I normally make sculptures that have many pieces of wire together. All right, now as you can see, all the wire is like really messed up and kinked. So I'm gonna try to straighten it up with my hands. This is why I use aluminum. Copper will be a little harder to maneuver. So if you have aluminum, it's the best thing to use for this kind of sculptures. So now that we have our wire straight up, I'm going to place my pliers here, and I'm going to pull the wire down in an angle that it almost touches this tire here. And I'm going to measure about 2.5 inches from where I bend the wire to where I'm going to do the next bend. Actually, let's go with like 2.25 inches, something like that. 2.25, more or less, right there. So I'm gonna place my fingers there and then mark with my pliers, and I'm gonna use my hands to do the bending. My pliers are just a support, and I'm gonna do a 90-degree bend to the outside like that. Now I'm going to use my tape measure again, and maybe about 1/2 inch from this bend to where I'm gonna do the next bend. I'm gonna place my pliers there, and I'm gonna bend it back to the center like that. Now that I've done that, then I'm gonna put my pliers here, and I'm gonna bend this down like that, and then I'm gonna bend this part up like this. And that's going to mimic our first pedal, you see, and we're gonna do exactly the same thing on this side. So I'm gonna place my pliers about a half an inch on the wire like that. I'm gonna bend it back to this way to the center, and I'm gonna bend this one down instead. Bend the part up. So this is what you're trying to replicate. There. So we have it, 2 pedals already finished. Now I'm gonna use my pliers here to put pressure right here, and I'm gonna hold with my left hand because I have to do this with my right hand. I'm going to wrap my wire around these 2 pedals a few times, and this is going to mimic the chain gear of our bike. So I made a little spiral by just twisting it around it like that. So once we get that, I don't like it too small, but I don't like it too big, so I went around 3 times, as you can see here. So now we can let go of this, and I'm gonna place my pliers right here, and I'm gonna stretch out the wire again because it's kind of kinked and bent. We got it straight again. So now I'm gonna use my pliers to, I'm gonna measure it first. I'm gonna measure from where this little pedal is to where I'm going to make the next bend. So maybe about 1.5 inches. About 1.5 inches from when this pedal is to where my next move is gonna be. I'm gonna place my pliers right here, and I'm just simply going to make a small circle. Just like that. See, that's all you need to do. And make sure our wire's straight again. Now it's important that on our next step, the wire is not on this side of the bike like that, but on this side, because what we're going to do is going to wrap this wire around this pedal here, just like so. Watch. I'm gonna put some pressure here and wrap it around it maybe just 1 time, and bring it back up, straight up. So that's what I did. It's important to, when you're doing this fold, that you have some pressure here so it's easier. Now I'm just going to use my pliers to make sure it's tight. And this has to be pointing straight up, like that. Now this is going to be helping us to make the seat for our bike. So what I'm gonna do now, it's making sure that the seat, normally it's about the same height as where the handlebar is. So just by having an imaginary line, I'm going to place my pliers here, and I'm going to bend this wire back in a 90-degree angle, just like that. See, it's about the same size, the same height from here to here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just an approximate. Now that we have that done, I'm going to place my pliers here and start shaping this wire to make it look like it's the seat. So I just went in the little loop there. It's gonna kind of look like a heart at first. You see what I'm saying? It's gonna look like a heart. Once you bring it back over here, and sometimes this one don't come out really symmetrical, but that's okay, because this is a weird way to fold the wire. So I'm gonna place my pliers almost at the same height as this right here, and I'm going to bend the wire back. But if I do this, it's gonna be on top of my seat, and I don't like, I can't do that because the wire's not gonna have a way to go back down. So what I want to do is I'm going to push this, open it up a little bit, just like that, and go under like this. I hope that was not too confusing, but if it is, just stop the video and pause it and look at what I did. You just don't want this wire to be over right here because there's no way for it to go back down. Instead, you can open this up and fold it in, and now it's going back down. I hope that makes sense. And now place my pliers here and pull really hard on this wire to make it go straight down. And now there it is. And then don't worry about it if it looks a little kinked at first. You can fix it later. Don't worry about it. Now we're going to imagine that there's a line from here to here, and that's where we're going to place our pliers next to pull the wires back and bend them just like that. Okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. And now we're going to work on making the back tire. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my pliers here just to make sure the wire is straight, and I'm going to pull the wire up just like that. Now all this nice work that we did, we're going to kind of mess it up for a little bit. I'm going to just separate it gently, not too much, and you'll see why. I'm gonna take my mold again and placing my thumb right here, I'm going to bring the wire around it to be able to form the other tire. There. Okay. Right here, and I'm going to fold the wire around it. Just like that. And then we take this out. And that's our tire. Now this thing is a little loose, so I'm just going to put some pressure on it, squeeze it really good, so it's got a tight grip on the wire. But there it is. That's our other tire. Now gently we're going to start putting back this part together before we continue. There we go. Okay, now we're going to start forming these things here on this back side. So the way to do that is just place your pliers here, pull the wire straight back, and somehow once you put it together you can see where the wire is supposed to go. Like it's gonna have to almost meet with this little circle here. So I'm gonna put my finger there and I'm gonna fold this back up like so. And then with my pliers, again, I'm going to bring it around to the other side like that, and fold it back to the center of the tire. Okay, now that we have that, I'm going to place my pliers there again and bring it back up like that. Now we're gonna give it a squeeze here. There it is. Now right here, you see where I put my pliers right on this little elbow here where the wire comes up. I'm gonna put it there and put some pressure, and I'm going to go around this whole thing and secure it like that. Don't worry if it looks a little wonky for now, but that's what we have. I'm gonna straighten up the wires, and I will bring the wire back to this side, and I'm just going to pull the wire down with my pliers just like that, kind of following this line here. And it's not gonna look super tight and nice here, but that's okay because it will look better at the end. Now I don't have a measurement, but it's like close to the pedal where we're going to bring this wire back up. That's where I place my pliers, a little bit higher when this pedal is. And what I'm going to do now is just use my fingers to shape this wire, like curving it up and then bring it down. And that's going to be matching or meeting where the neck of our bike is right here. You see that there. All right, here it's important to put some pressure with your thumb and your index here, because if you don't, then you're gonna pull too much wire. So you put some pressure there, and then you use your hands, your other hand, to wrap the wire around it a couple times without letting go of this. And you see how it's a little loose, it moves up and down. All you gotta do is take your pliers now and squeeze it a little bit to make sure it doesn't do that anymore. And that's that. Okay, now the rest of the wire that we have here, we're just gonna pull it straight up, and we're gonna have some leftovers, but that's okay because we want to have extra and not to not have enough. We match it with this wire here, with the first one that we formed in the beginning, and then over here we just bend it outwards in a 90-degree angle to be able to make it look like the one in the beginning that we did, like that. Now I'm just going to measure that we have about the same size. That's about 2 inches. About 2 inches right here. And we're almost finished with this bike. There you go. Now I know it looks a little wonky, but you can work on fixing it with your fingers. You know, if it's like kinks or parts that are like all over the place, you can fix it. That's why I told you not to worry too much about it when you were doing it, because until the bike is done, then you're gonna keep messing it up. So don't worry about fixing a lot of things before it's finished. Now what I like to do here is I'm going to just bend them, give them a little bit of a shape like that. There you go. And make sure that this wire here kind of meet with this little circle here. So I'm going to push it up, and there you go. And here we're going to work on making the handlebars. And for that, I really just, I think this is a little too long, so I'm gonna cut some of it off. Maybe about 4, where the number 4 is, that's 4 centimeters, which is like 1.5 inches. But there. And I'm gonna do the same thing with this side, where that 4 is, about 1.5 inches. That should be good enough. Now I'm going to use my fingers to shape this like that, and then this part here is going to come down like that. And now it's looking more like a cool bike, like a vintage kind of bike. There you go. And it's looking nice. There you go, guys. Now I believe I might have forgot to mention at the beginning, but this is just a piece of scrap aluminum wire. This is a 20 gauge. So I'm just going to show you how to make the handlebars, for the handle grips, whatever you want to call it. All you gotta do is just wrap this around it about 10 times, and you gotta leave some of this sticking out to shape it into like a brakes. This is a very simple thing to do, but it gives it a really nice look, and you can use any color that you have around that it matches what you're doing. So I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. Leave some of it sticking out, and then I'm gonna wrap this around it a few times, just making sure that it looks nice and tight. There you go. I'm gonna squeeze it a little bit with my pliers so it doesn't come out or fall out of it. And all you gotta do is, you have that much wire sticking out, just bend it back, and this end, just bend it into like a little hook, just like that. And the same thing with this one. This one is a little longer, so I'll bend it back, I'll cut it, and that looks really cool with its little handlebars and the brakes and all that. And now, before we move on to the next step, I'm gonna cut up a piece of this wire. This is about maybe 2 inches. It's 2.5 inches, and this is going to be our kickstand. So all you need to do is bend one of the ends into like a J shape, and you're gonna place it right here on this end, in this bar here. Sorry, let's get it there, and just squeeze it together really good. You can also add like a little drop of crazy glue on it, just to make sure it doesn't move. But if you get a hold of it really good and cut it right here, and there it is. Now you can just let it sit and it'll stay like that. Okay, what I have here is, this is one of those plastic molds that I bought from the craft store. I will be leaving some links on the description so you guys can get this if you need it. And we're gonna use this to make the basket of our bicycle. So basically all I do is find the size that I need to, and I'm gonna take this 15 gauge wire. I'm gonna wrap it around it a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times, like that. And I'm just going to get rid of the rest. And to finish our basket, all I'm going to do is cover this empty gap by using the leftover wires that I have, and I'm just going to measure it from side to side, just like that. See, it's about the size of the square that I made. And I'm just gonna go in like a zigzagging motion, up and down. Just like that. I'm gonna compare it. I still need a little bit more to go. I think that should be good enough. And all I'm gonna do now, it's basically just slide it in one of the crack open there, just like that. You can add a little bit of super glue there if you want to. I'm not going to right now. And this wire here, I'm going to bend it backwards just like that, like kind of in the middle. And this is going to be attaching to the bike. So since it's a little too long, I'm just going to get rid of the excess and just fold this and into a hook, kind of like that. I'm gonna place it here, and I'm gonna use my pliers to close it together so it will get attached to the bike. Just like that. And super glue is always a good option on these cases, just to secure it a little bit, but I will do that later. But you guys, maybe you should put some super glue here just to make sure it doesn't fall out. Now I'll show you how I make these little flowers. All I do is find a piece of scrap wire with the color that I like. In this case, it's going to be this blue one, and put the bead through it. And all I gotta do is use my fingers to make the little petals, just by looping it around like that. Doesn't have to be super perfect, but something that just represents flowers. Once I go around the bead all the way, I'm just going to wrap it around it. Just like that. And I'm just going to wrap it around one of these things. And there it is. That's just one little flower. I'm going to make a couple more and show you what I look like. Okay, here I have my 3 little flowers. I think that's good enough. And all I do is just going to place them in this little basket. Just like that. And it's always a good idea, like I mentioned, to add some super glue just so they stay together. Just randomly add a little bit drops just to keep them there. I'm gonna add a drop here too. So this is all done at the end once you got everything done, so you can let it dry without messing and getting messed up or touching the glue. Okay friends, I think that's pretty much it for this time. I hope you guys liked this video. And like always, don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Click the subscribe button, the bell button. And I just added a new button that is a thanks button for people who would like to support the channel and do some contribution. It's deeply appreciated, so that can help us make more content. If you have any comments or questions, please let me know, and I'll get to them when I have time. And that's it for today, guys. All right, well, have a good day.